Oh, I just realized that I was on mute, y'all. So sorry for that. This is the Blackout live from New York with your host, Tasemere. And for those revisiting us, great to have you back. For some first time viewers, glad that you woke up this morning with the Blackout live from New York. Our purpose here is to celebrate Black folks across the diaspora and to have an open dialogue about Black economics, how we reimagine trends in business, and explore the magic that we have. I am waiting for a guest to arrive. She has a dynamic background, personality. I think you guys are gonna love, 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 love all the amazing things that she has to say. And I'm super, super, super excited to have her with us today when she pops in. Before that, I would just like to go over some brief readings that I was doing while I was waiting for to go live for this segment. But have you guys been watching or hearing about this very controversial in some instances case of Roe versus Wade? I was just reading an article and I'm looking to pull it up here so you guys can also see some commentary of our late justice that, passed and her decision on or opinions about Roe versus Wade. And from what I was reading, she was explaining how she felt like the decision and the scope or the framework that the case was argued for and ultimately had a decision about was a little too narrow and left too much room for these rights to be attacked later on in the future. So just wanted to bring that up. Maybe that's something that we can talk about, not from is it right or wrong to have abortion, but she was talking about it more from equality and women's equality. And so that was really interesting to read. Also have an article here about raising an entrepreneur who is raising or has raised about 2.3 million in seed funding after being rejected numerous times for what he wanted to do. So I will pull this up here so you guys can see, because this article I actually do have in front of me because I was looking at it. So this gentleman here from Boxed Up is basically sharing his experience going through the seed raising pitching process. And he actually was told no a lot of times. And he actually mentioned that he felt a little lonely. He was almost like second guessing what he was doing and why he was doing it, and a little discouraged from pitching. And I wanted to sit there for a moment because I know that pitching can be hard. And if you guys are tuning in and not familiar about what I'm alluding to, it's really when you have a business and you're saying, hey, I think this is a great idea and I want to get started. Hi, Kimberly just popped in. I'm going to finish up this thought and then bring her up. Sometimes when you're presenting your businesses to an audience, it can be very discouraging when you don't walk out with what you consider to be a win. And in the article, he was basically sharing his opinion because he didn't want it to get overshadowed with the fact that he has been able to raise money. So if you guys have time, definitely read that article. Welcome, welcome, Kimberly.
Hey, Taz. How are you?
Good morning, good afternoon, good night.
Yes.
How
are you?
I'm well. I was just going over two articles that I was reading this morning. One was on our justice that recently passed away and her thoughts around the Roe versus Wade case. and she was arguing that she felt that the framework that the case was decided in was a little too broad and would leave it open for some further debate. And she kind of felt like the framework should have been argued in more of a women's equality framework versus the framework that it was argued in. And then I spoke about another article that I read around a guy, the founder of Boxed Up, who just was given his pre-seed or closed his pre-seed round with 2.3 million, and he was sharing more of the trials that it took to get there because he felt like the write-ups in the media was making it seem like, oh, this is amazing. While it is amazing, it was still like so much work that he had to do, and how he felt lonely, and how he was kind of like, I don't want to pitch anymore because people aren't getting my idea. They don't understand what I'm trying to do. And I wanted to bring light to that because we know in entrepreneurship, it don't go like that. Like, it takes so long for you to get the win. And sometimes people feel like, oh, that happened really fast.
Yeah, I think so many stories that we're told, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's, we're a celebrity obsessed culture, right? So whether it's about celebrities, artists, whatever, it's like, wow, it just happened like magic. They blew up, right? And don't get me wrong, I believe in magic. However, you got to put the work in. Even for magic, you got to know the ingredients, and you got to know what to do, and you got to sit with it, and you got to pray and meditate and incantate, whatever the heck it is that you're going to do. So it's always a process, but we get the bloom part, but we don't get that's what we get in media, like when it's like the burst of the bloom, right? Like it's spring, right? We get when it's like, but we don't get the seed in the ground. We don't get the winter that it went through. We don't get all that, the watering. Then sometimes it was dry, and then they had to plant all over again, and the plant died, and then we don't get all that. All we get is the voila.
I agree. So I want you to do a brief intro, like some background, because I don't know who's gonna watch this. I want them to know about you and who you are and what you're working on right now.
Okay, so me, who am I? I am Kimberly. And oh my God, I wasn't prepared. I'll be honest, very transparent. I was not prepared to do my own intro. I was prepared to answer questions. And so I almost feel like bringing up my bio and reading it. I'm Kimberly, right? Kimberly Nelson. I am a spiritual life coach. I have spent, the past, well, let me talk about, so I've always worked in the community for the most part, right? I spent a few years in corporate, but outside of that, all my work has been in the community. And so, and I am, so I've always been in what's called the helping professions. Came across coaching. Actually, I came across coaching very early on when in I would say the late 80s, early 90s, but it was so outside the box. And at that time, not having embraced that I am a 100% outlier, outside the box, right? Like free spirit person that I did. So it just seemed like I was like, I didn't know how to like penetrate that. Like, how do you get into that? So, but it was always there in the back of my mind. So fast forward, I don't know, maybe 15 years or so. It came back around, was exposed to the Intervisions Institute for Spiritual Development, which is actually Iyanla Van Zant School. So ended up at Intervisions, studying coaching principles, how to coach, all those things. And so then from there went to an integrative health school, Maryland University of Integrative Health. So basically trained as a spiritual life coach, trained as a health and wellness coach, and put them all together. But really, I am a spiritual life coach, meaning that I use universal principles and my intuition allows spirit to use me to support people in moving forward with their lives. So now, how has that taken place in the world, right? Because well, one, and coaching is the modality I use. Honestly, I consider myself like I'm a teacher and a healer, and coaching is how I do it. So, and so moving back into after being in corporate a few years and some other thing, life happening, etc. I've been working with people coming home from prison since about 2013, and from that, I moved into working with people with entrepreneurs who are formerly incarcerated. So, been doing that for a number of years, and pandemic kind of, put the the kibosh on all of that. And so I'm currently in divinity school, which is a call I had many years ago, and my life took a different route, so I didn't go. And somehow that call came back, the last thing I ever expected. And it's not. I'm not trying to be. My path is not ministry, church, any of that. My path is more. Again, this is informing how to use universal principles, how to use people's faith and belief to support them in moving forward in their lives. So, the next thing I want to do is to go into prisons. I actually, my birthday's in December, so my story is that like on my birthday in December 19, I was giving a presentation inside of a jail, and I thought once we got into 2020, I was going to continue doing that with the same organization, etc. And then of course the pandemic happened, and so that was the end of going inside and all of that. Um yeah, so I am currently just continuing my own personal formation so that I can be who I need to be to support people. Like I said, the the philosophy of the program I was involved with in DC, and shout out to Aspire, I have to shout out Kate Moran, um, and was really to address the discrimination that people coming home from prison face, right? So the level of employment discrimination is insane, and I've even had people in my social circles, who knew about the work I was doing, ask me questions like, well, you know what a those kind of fear-based questions that people ask about people who have been who have done time. And I'm always really clear, like, look, anybody who's knocking on your door for a job, anybody who's trying to do whatever, like, they've made a choice. That's the choice they've made, that they are changing their lives, right? And so, like, and I'm gonna support people with that, and I'm not gonna, I don't see people through the lens of what they've done. I see people through the lens of who they are. And so that's my thing. I need to find out who you are, and then how do I support you from there? So, yeah. So I don't know. I kinda go all over the place because, like I said, I was not prepared.
But I wanted to talk about a couple of things with you because you mentioned coaching.
Mhm.
And coaching is something that we see a lot of people feel like, I had this experience, so I can be a coach, right?
Uh-huh.
So there's a lot of people just giving themselves the title of coach for almost any and everything. Um, and I feel that coaching is more than just sitting and talking with people, right? It's more than just a conversation because us as people, we come with so much, right? Like there's so many different pieces that make up who you are, that's always informing what you do or what you don't do.
Mhm.
And so my concern with, people just waking up wanting to be a coach and haven't really done any type of training. Me and one of my friends, Ebony, always says, you would get you would probably go to jail and be fined if you just woke up and told somebody you a doctor. Like, I can do this surgery because I watch Grey's Anatomy, right? Like, I think I can help you, right? I think that coaching needs to be seen in that sort of space. Like, there has to be some type of qualifying something, like life experience, tools that you have, dedication to the craft that you have in
Mhm.
order to really service people.
Mhm.
Because I'm finding that people are moonlighting as coaches and hurting people in the process because they don't really know what it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
And they are misguiding and misdirecting people. And in some instances, they might be reinforcing trauma that this person has already had that makes it harder for them to reach out to get assistance and support that they need in the future because they think that like what Kimberly is doing is easy, right? Like oh, Kimberly makes it look easy. I can go into prison too. Like let me like I got something to share too, right? Instead of understanding what it took, or maybe it wasn't formal education, right? But it's like a mix of different experiences that you've had that informs how you deliver your work.
Yeah. So this is right, and I'm very clear. Coaching is a skill, right? So so one of the things is that oftentimes in life we are able to flourish in something that we have a natural proclivity for, right? So if you have a natural proclivity for, like I have clients who are, let's say, software engineers, right? And I'm always really clear, like after a conversation with them, I point out to them that like that's how your brain works. You don't do well at what you do just because you trained. And I mean, they did train it and they had to learn the languages and all that, but your brain works that way. And that's why it comes to you like that, right? So for me, so I'll just speak about me, right? Like, so I have always been a people person, right? So like one of my favorite stories is just that, not favorite stories, but one of the ways in which, you look back on your life and you think about things that people said to you and I realized, oh, that was somebody seeing that in me. In high school, so I grew up on Long Island and the newspaper on Long Island was Newsday. And so in high school, I had a friend who used to call me Newsday. And not because I was a gossip, because I was not a gossip, but she said it's because she said you are friends with almost every social circle in this school. She's like whether friends are just like friendly with, like, she's like, so what's happening with everybody all the time. She's like, because you just get on with everyone. And so, so that was so people have always been my passion. That's my natural proclivity, right? Like, like I said, I'm in divinity school, right? Got to write academic papers. I hate writing. I'm an excellent writer. I hate writing. I'd rather talk to you. I'd rather present. I'd rather, let's go back and forth. Let's have a conversation and debate about it, right? Like that. I love that interaction. And so that I bring naturally to coaching, right? My curiosity about people, my wanting to know who people are and all of that. So that's coming naturally. Now, but then there's skills to it. There's training. There's you've got to, coaching is a conversation, but a coach has to have a very specific ear. It's not just, you've got to be able to listen actively. You have to be able to and keep your own stuff out of it, right? So when you say that there's people out there hurting people, right? Because I said I've been in the helping professions for many years. And so, one of the things that we learn early on in social services is like when helpers are hurters. And I'm gonna be very transparent. In my early years, I know I can look back and see the times where I was not a healer when I was a hurter, right? Because I did not, and mind you, all that has shaped and formed who I am today and the the immaculate boundaries I have. Yeah. But so it's just like, so your past experience comes into it, but you have to, there's training, there's skills. When people come to me, I just had a conversation with somebody who someone said to her, like, the way that she always supported them, whatever, like she should be a coach, right? So she called me up to find out about that. And she has 20 years experience as a nurse, right? So this is somebody who has been in a helping profession, doing things, has had to learn boundaries, things like that. We talked about all this. And so the one thing I told her, I said, look, if you, because this is the deal, coaching is not a regulated field. And that's the challenge. So anybody can hang up a shingle and say that they're a coach. And there are people who do that, who without training, who are excellent, right? But I'll be honest, I feel like they're the exception, not the rule. And And so then trying to go through the field to find that, right? And there are people who are trained to, I'm sorry, because that's a big thing now in a lot of shows. I don't watch a lot of reality TV, but I do watch some. And they'll bring a coach on, whatever. And me and my coach friends get on the phone and we like, what? What is that? I'm not gonna lie. Look, I sat at the feet of masters, all right? Iyanla Vanzant, and people think it's just Iya. It's not. Iya has a school of masters, people who did this with, so it's like, so I have sat at the feet of masters, right? And even when I went to, so shout out Iyanla Vanzant, Mama Helen Jones, who just transitioned to the other side, Mama Almasi Wilcox, right? Those are three of my spiritual mothers, right? And then I shout out again to Tony Coley Lee, another person who helped shape and form me, right? Who coached me, spiritual coach. So it's like, so I have had, I've been able to watch it and interact with, right? And then I went to a formal school, right? Maryland University of Integrative Health. And I had a professor there who, well, actually, she wasn't even teaching at that time. She was the head of the program. First name Cheryl, can't remember her last name. Shout out to her too, because she was an incredible coach. I mean, so I have, I have also been able to practice all types of styles, right? And train styles. So, and I pull from all of that. I have to be me, right? But I pull from all of that. And so, so it is important. There is, and every place I've gone has, basically instilled ICF principles. So the ICF is the International Coaching Federation, right? They are one of, I will say, three. I think there's three large international coaching federations, right? ICF is kind of more US based, but it is international, right? And then there are others that are, based elsewhere, right? And so, because there are certain principles and ethics that go, and that's what's really important, ethics. And if you deal with those principles and those ethics, so I have to get back to what I was saying. So the sister who called me, who's been a nurse for 20 years, I said, look, I sent her to the ICF site. I said, look at the principles, the what do we call it there? The ICF core. I can't even remember. Oh Lord, that's because I'm on the spot. But anyway, but look at all those things, the ethics, the core principles, all of that, and then let's have a conversation, right? And let's talk about that stuff. Because those are the things you have to bring in. But then again, there's skills. Coaches don't talk, coaches listen. Like my clients will tell you all the time. I'll be like, you know what, I've been talking a lot. And I'm like, because we need to know what question, we need to listen and ask the question, because I'm always clear with my clients. I don't have your answers. You have your answers. My role as a coach is to support you and facilitate you in bringing your answers forward. So my point is to reflect back to you what I hear. I have to hear underneath what people say. Now, mind you, that's part of I'm not gonna lie, that's part of my natural proclivity, right? As a people person. And I've been in fields where I've been making quote unquote assessments, right? Like doing intakes and assessments for a long time. And so I've learned through that, right? And so, yeah, so there are skills, there are principles, there are ethics that go into this, and people need to know those. People, whether, and not only that, I think people need to be trained, but people also need to be trained in how do I what, not just accredited, because it's not just about that, but in schools or coaching training programs that are validated, verified, right? Like you can talk to people who've been there, right? So because there's a lot of people who also hang up a shingle and say, I have a coach training program. Now, as much as I'm talking about the ICF, I think that they have been a little loose in terms of allowing people to say that they have, so that you can have these different types of programs with the ICF, right? So there's ACTP, ACTFH, I can't remember, right? And I can't even tell you what all those different acronyms. And so, And so you have to, so I feel like there's some people who, do what they have to do to get that, like, oh, I'm an ICF accredited training program, but they're not doing nothing special. And I know that because I said, this sister was doing something once. I said, well, let me just see what she's doing, right? This was before I went to MUIH. And I was like, well, let me just see what she's doing. And I was like, this is horrible. Give me my money back. Intervisions, right? And so let me be also so with Intervisions, right, I did the personal development program, which was incredible. And the personal development program was really about learning to be a coach in your own life. And then from there, they have what's called advanced studies, and there's a coaching program and a ministry program. So I went in, I started the coaching program, but then the first year I was in the coaching program, my father passed away. So my whole life kind of stopped because that just was like a loss that just really took me out. And so I did not actually complete with Intervisions, which is why I was like, okay. And I thought I would go back, but then I didn't. And just, life just set me in a different path. And then that's when I ended up at Maryland University of Integrative Health, because I was like, that's another one of my passions is health and wellness. So I was like, okay, coaching and health and wellness, let me do this. So that's how I ended up there. But before that was when I kind of made a pit stop with one of these little and I was like, oh no, this doesn't work. And then there's these programs that are like, that have some sort of certification, right? And they're like, come for a weekend, right? And then you're going to be certified as a coach. Would you go to a doctor, a therapist, a psychiatrist who had a weekend worth of training?
No.
I mean, so that's all I'm saying. Again, like I said, because coaching is not a regulated field, right? Meaning, so you don't have to have state licensure, you don't, all those types of things, that yes, anybody can say they're a coach. That is one of the reasons why the ICF and these other large organizations were formed, because of the fact that they wanted there to be some sort of framework, guidelines, available for people who wanted to coach. And they also wanted, honestly, part of it is they're like, eventually that it will probably become a regulated field. And they wanted there to be a framework already to be put into place, right? So, yeah. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I think so, because as on the outside looking in, I feel like there can be a coach for practically anything, right? Like you can, like almost anybody that has an idea can like nest it underneath coaching. But to your point, not everybody can be a coach, right? It takes a certain kind of like formula to like get a coach. And on the other end, as a consumer, every coach might not be able to satisfy what it is that I need at this point, right?
It's the same. Look, any type of helping relationship is exactly that, a relationship, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a coach, right? There has to be chemistry. And so just like because I have clients who I'm like, I refer to therapy, who I'm like, you know what? There's some things here, we can work on this, but there's some things here that I'm hearing, and the way it comes up and the way you speak about it, it's like it needs to be, there may need to be a deeper dive into that, right? And an exploration of that in a different way than I do as a coach, right? Because I'm always clear, like, as a coach, I might ask you a question about your past to inform what's happening presently and your current life experience, but we're not going to explore your past. We're not going to go into all of that, right? That's different. And if somebody has things that they just have not sorted, and it's just really jacking them, right? Just jacking them up in their day-to-day life, then I may refer them to therapy. And I'm always like, it has to be a fit, right? Like it has to be a fit. So just like, so it's like you can have a consultation and you can talk to people and even have a session and decide, you know what, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. I don't feel any kind of way if clients tell me they don't feel like it's working. I've only had that happen once, and I'm fine with it. I'm like, yes, I'd rather that quite honestly, because I want people to get what they need. And if I can't give you what you need, I'm good. I'm fine with that. I want you to go where you can.
Even at the DM firm, I have been contemplating collaborating or partnering with therapists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because while being an entrepreneur, everybody thinks it's all about the product, the service, and the money. It's also a spiritual piece that happens because entrepreneurship takes you on so many different twists and turns and ups and downs and really, really high highs and really deep, deep low lows that you don't know what part of your life is going to be triggered by something that someone said when you were 5 or when you were 10 or when you were 12, right? That you thought you got over that, but now you're realizing like, oh, this is showing up in how I address this thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I can't help you figure out your business life and what direction you want to go in that way if you're being held back by something that I don't have the expertise to help you through, nor should I attempt to help you through some sort of trauma, right? So
Yeah.
I also tell people that while business is creative and you make money and you figure out what you like in your clients, don't get it twisted. It's also a spiritual journey because you might have some moments where there's no checks coming in, right? Like nobody is picking up what you putting down, and if they are, they're kind of like, can I get that for a discount? How does that start to impact how you value yourself? Like what does that reinforce? Do you get angry? Do you get depressed? Like what do you go through if what you wanted to happen with this product or this service or this speaking engagement isn't what is happening, right? So
Yeah.
how do you make that whole for yourself? And so I'm always like, listen, it's a whole nother thing that people are not talking about, that they are like in deep whatever faith they're in or however they get themselves aligned to face like these challenges. It's a whole nother thing that's happening that you might just see the quick post or you might see like, oh my gosh, they were here and they were there, but you have no idea how taxing that can be on a person. So just understand that while we're going on this journey, it's going to be another journey that you're going on. And if you need somebody to assist you in that way, that's totally cool.
Yeah. No, yeah, that was one of the things, right? So when I was in the working in with entrepreneur, with we call them returning citizen entrepreneurs, right? That was the terminology is always changing because honestly, because it's about really wanting to honor people's humanity, right? So like, you'll never hear me say ex-con and none of that kind of nonsense. But anyway, so I used to tell my folks all the time, my entrepreneurs, I used to be like, the way you run your life is the way you run your business. And so part, because that's what my role was in the program. At first I was just providing wraparound services, then I went on to do a few other things, and wraparound services was exactly that. It was about, okay, this is an entrepreneurship program, but we need some other things to support people as people. They need support as persons, as human beings in their life. And so, and that was, like I said, it's the way you run your life is the way you run your business. So I need to talk to you about your life as well, because let's talk about this. Let's talk about how you resolve conflict. Let's talk about all those types of things, because these things are going to come. Let's talk about how you behave, how any of us behave, right? When when someone comes up to you and like, I don't like what you did, or I don't like your product, I don't like your service, how do you handle that? And like you just said, how do we stay fast? How do we stay firmly grounded when things are just, happening all around us? And it's like, it seems like it's trying to throw us off course, and will throw us off course if we don't have a way to stay centered and grounded in spite of what's happening around us.
So for full disclosure, I called Kimberly because my bonus mom had shared with me, call Kimberly if you want to work with justice involved individuals. You know, there's all these different titles. And I quickly learned about these wraparound services, right? Like, oh my gosh, to Kimberly's point. And so I was like, oh, I got more work to do, right? Because this is a whole nother population. So I wanted you to talk a little bit about how you have worked with some people in that endeavor.
Oh, what happened?
I'm still here. I'm just going to give you the floor.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, so let me just give a little history. So I first started working with people coming home in a work release center. And so I was literally doing supporting people with job search as well as job retention, right? Because it's one thing to secure the job, it's another thing to retain the job, right? And what are the skills required in that, and how do you deal with when things come up, right? So I did that for a couple of years, and then was away from that kind of work for a couple of years, and then went back into working in with an entrepreneurship program in, like I said, in DC, Aspire. So I think, well, one, this is, so any type of, like I said, helping relationship, right? That, which is just, the helping professions, you have to you got to establish trust, right? What is that axiom? People don't care, what is it? People don't care what you know until they know that you care, or something along that lines, right? So, so one of the things is, like, I have to show up authentically. I have to show up, being able to be transparent about myself, right? To encourage people, to let people know they can trust me. That's all, right? And trust me at whatever level they're willing to trust, right? And so, and then it's really like I say, it's like a parallel path, right? So doing entrepreneurship and personal development, right? So business development and personal development all at the same time. And so again, anybody in any kind of helping profession knows the whole idea of that, you meet people where they are. You like I said, establish trust, you meet people where they are, and and it's really, for me, it's about self-determination and empowerment, right? I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm not telling anybody what I think is gonna work for them, right? Let's have the conversation. Let's figure this out together. I'm here to support you in figuring things out, right? And there was something else I thought of, and it left my mind that quick. It was something I used to tell my entrepreneurs all the time too. But anyway, so yeah, so it's about, really, it's hard work. It's personal work is hard work, right? So let me also be clear. Like, I have a friend who I joke with all the time. I'm like, I paid too much money to too many people and too many programs to do my work, to be who I am today, to allow anything to drag me down, right? Like, I just can't do that. And so that is also sort of what I talk to people about. Okay, it's like, who are you? Who do you want to be? And how do you stand in that, regardless, like I said, of what's happening around you? And then how does that translate into who you are as a business owner, right? Who you are as an entrepreneur, right? And also, so in the programs I've been in, right, getting really clear with people about, and asking people to get really clear about, is this for them, right? Because the bottom line is, whether it entrepreneurship ends up being for them, whether they end up, taking on, some sort of job instead, become an employee, whether they become an employee and still run something on the side. It's like, there's so much that people can learn on the entrepreneurial path, and really what you learn about yourself. And that's so valuable, and you can't trade that for the world, like what you learn about yourself. And so Tell me your original question again, because I feel like I'm getting off.
No, I wanted you to share a little bit about your work with people that were justice involved individuals and returning or still.
I love working with people, period, right? So I don't care what you got. Like I said, I don't care what you've done. I don't care where you're from. All I care about is who you are now and where you want to go. And that's really all I care about. So just, like I said, people are my passion. So, I mean, it is, so one of the things I believe wholeheartedly in is it's called the trans theoretical theory. Where is it? Where's my book? I know I'm not getting paid to promote this book, but I will promote this book all the time. So this book right here, I don't know if people can see it. So Change You for Good, right? So and it's written by shrinks, forgive the terminology, by psychologists, right? And university professor folks, but they wrote it in a way that anybody can read it. It's not a lot of technical language and technical jargon and all that other kind of stuff. And it's really about how to change your life, right? So in the trans theoretical model of change, there's these stages, right? So there's pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance, and then and maintenance and yeah. So anyway, and and so I talk to people directly. I listen to what they say and I tell them where I think they are, right? Based upon that. And just like I'm explaining this right here, I tell them it sounds like you're in contemplation, you're thinking about it. The next stage is preparation. So what's it going to take to get there? Because you're saying you want this thing over here, but we got to get through this to get there, right? I mean, I believe in the brilliance of people, right? And I believe, and let me be, I'm very clear that I came in this world as a Black woman in this season of time, because that's who I'm here to work with. I work with everybody though, don't get me wrong. However, I know that I'm here to support people from my community. And so, so that being said, I'm just gonna say, like, I love brilliant, beautiful Black people, right? And and so I see that. That's what I see. I see when I look at people and I have that conversation, I look for where's the possibility, where's the brilliance, where's the whatever, and it's always there. And so, so part of that is literally me, um, just speaking life into people. That's that, just speaking life into people, letting them know what I see, what I hear, who they are. If nobody's ever told them that before, that's what I'm going to do. And
so with Point of Discovery coaching and consulting, how do people reach out to you? What if people see this and they're like, I need some Kimberly in my life?
So, right, you post this on LinkedIn, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, that's a way to reach me. And then on LinkedIn, there's a link to my website, right? So full disclosure, the website that's up now is just up because it's been up. Somebody's working on a new site for me. So yeah, I just have to say that. You know how you get to that point where you look at something and you're like, oh my God, this needs to change. I don't like this anymore, right? So that's kind of where I am. So things are working in the background. So eventually, at some point, it's going to be up there. But and hopefully this summer when I have more time to do it, because like I said, I'm in school, so I've been working full time and coaching full time as well as in graduate school full time. So yeah, so that's LinkedIn, or navigate to my site, and on my site there's a contact form. And I'm saying that to people who are interested in knowing more about my services, not people who want to solicit me for their services. I already have a web designer, I already have a graphic designer, I already have an app developer, I already have all that stuff.
Just for people that are interested in working with you as a client, not people that see you as a vendor. I get it. Because as soon as people see that you have a business, everybody wants some money. They will figure out something.
Yeah. I have people for that. I have people for that. I mean, just because just being on the path, you meet people, whatever, and you choose who you're gonna work with, and that's just it, right? It's not even, yeah, that's just all. So I have been on the path long enough that I have those folks. So I don't know why this is in my head, but I'm just gonna. So I'm thinking about when we were talking about coaching, right? Um, and me and a couple of other folks, we talk about how there are some folks out there who are just like, they're doing that formula, right? And I'm nothing against the formula, right? That formula of you know, getting leads and blah blah blah, and like, okay, come to my group coaching and this, that, and the other, and charging mega bucks, like mega bucks. And I've never done that, right? I've done other things, right? And I've probably done things that have been more quote unquote mainstream, right, so to speak. Maybe Intervisions is not mainstream at all. Um, and MUIH is somewhat mainstream. Um, and but I've had people do that and be like thoroughly disappointed, and they're out anywhere from 7 to 12,000 bucks. And so that's the only, I would say, it, I'm very big at, like, we need to learn from other people's experiences. We don't have to just learn from our own experiences, right? So for me, cautionary tale, not necessarily my experience, but like, vet that and ask people. I'm very big. Ask people, can I talk to your former clients? Can I talk to your former? Do you have? Like, I don't just want to read testimony. If I'm giving anybody more than $5,000, I'm gonna be really serious. If I'm giving you more than $5,000 for something, I need to know. I don't want to just read testimonials. I want to actually talk to some folks. Folks I can talk to. I mean, that's how I feel about it.
I agree because in the, as you put it, the helping profession is, you don't want to think somebody is going to help you get from point A to point B, and whatever the point A that you're starting from and the point B of where you want to go, and they hit you with an invoice of $15,000 for 6 months, right? And they want that money up front. And then maybe they might say, okay, we'll give you like a payment plan, but it gets you to the next point of the journey, right? Mm-hmm. But still, you want to know as a customer, and I tell my clients all the time, like, don't be afraid to ask people that's asking you for money questions. Like, you can ask as many questions as you need to get clear about the check that you're going to be writing, right? Don't let people dance around, give very vague ideas, things that are not necessarily tangible. You can't touch it, you can't feel it, kind of thing. Like, what is it that you absolutely want to walk out of this experience having, and how long is it going to take you to get there? And midway, what can you expect to be doing, right? Before you write the check. Because I don't need you coming back to me telling me, oh my gosh, I hired this ex professional and they beat me out of this money, and now I don't have money to do the next leg of the journey, because this is also due diligence on your part as well. And any kind of person that you're hiring, to make sure that you are clear with them what you want, and you have enough certainty to know that they can actually perform the task. And if someone doesn't want to give you, 3 of their clients that can rave about their work and go in detail about what happened, then maybe that's not the person that you want to work with, right? If somebody's charging you whatever price they're charging you, they should have at least 3 people that could verify their work, right? That's not, and to your point, that's not in a testimonial. Somebody that says, give them a phone number so I can talk about you, because I want to talk about you because I was so excited.
Exactly. I had a spiritual coach I had once. Before I could even ask, he was like, here, this person and this person, you can call them, or they'll do a video call with you if you want to find out more about me. Like, she volunteered it.
Yep. You can stand on that, right? You can stand on someone who went through that program or that experience that you're getting ready to sign up for, they can talk to you about what their experience has been about. And another thing I want to throw, people should be giving people scope of works. Like, don't just do verbal, this is what you thought you were going to get, right?
Yeah.
That leaves things open to like misinterpretation. Like, you should get something written that you can also check off. Like, did I get that? Did I not get that? And for the person that's providing the service, it's good for us to know what I needed to give you, right? Because at the end of this, I don't want you to say you didn't get that plan of action or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. I mean, I have a coaching, right? And so I send it out beforehand, like, look at this, read this. Does it answer your, after, and that's after a consultation with me where you should have had with certain questions I hope will get answered. And then look at this, and it tells you, what I do, what I don't do, what I, and what I, coaching is. So there is a school of coaching called coactive coaching, right? Because coaching is a coactive process between the coach and the client, right? So it's like you show up, I show up, right? And it's like, this is what it is, right? And so, and read that. Do you understand what it says? Does it, whatever, because as, coaches, and other folks who work in one-on-one, supporting relationships, right? There's not necessarily any kind of quote unquote guarantee in terms of outcomes, right? But there is, but there is how do I want to say this? You're clear about your goal. I'm clear about what I'm going to do to support you to get there, right? We work it. I check in. Is this working for you? Like, like I said, if it's not working for somebody, I'm not attached. It's like, it's not going to hit my ego and whatever, right? It's like, I check in. How's it going for you? Where do you feel you are on this journey? Have you been getting what you came here for? How much, what else do you feel, can work for you? Is there any shift we need to make? Yeah.
I love it. I think that this is helpful for some folks that are looking for coaching services to kind of understand how they should prepare for interviewing the coach. Because to your point, you said this is not a regulated, like, show me your board certification for coaching. And even if somebody does have the certification to coach, that doesn't mean that their framework of how they coach lines up with what it is that you actually need, right? So it's more of a dance, so to speak, before you actually decide, like, this is the coach for me to help me get to this particular point.
Yeah. Something. So I'm really, I was a person, right? Now, people can come to coaching with very particular, for very particular reasons, right? Very particular goals. So I'm not necessarily going to try to get into all the other arenas of their life, but that being said, there's still, helping people to understand that, like, how we are in any space is how we are in every space, whether we realize it or not, right? So then so that's what comes about dealing with the whole person, not just this thing over here. It's like, so it might be just this thing over there in their life, but who are you as a whole person in that thing in your life? And just, yeah.
Well, we have to wrap up. If you guys need to reach out to Kimberly, she already told you LinkedIn is her jam. This is on LinkedIn. Find her on LinkedIn. Click the website, fill out the contact form. For people that are looking for her services, not vendors, okay? Like, she don't want the vendors sliding up in there, the independent contractors sliding up in there with your proposals. That's not, she got people. She was clear. She said she got a team. She know people that can do those things.
Well, Tab, I just want to thank you so much. I was so humbled when you said to me, "Hey, do you want to come on?" I was like, "What? Me? Really? Okay." And so, I'm just very, very grateful, and I'm just very grateful to know you. Period. Honestly, and have you in my life as my BFF childhood since way back in the day, fourth grade friend. Right? Wait, how old are we? I'm gonna tell our business. We've been friends now almost 45 years. It's gonna be 50 years soon we've been friends.
Yeah, my bonus mom that has been my bonus mom since I was probably like, I don't know, 14 or something like that.
Yeah. At at Legal Outreach, right?
Yeah, at Legal Outreach, we got connected, and now she's Elijah's Gigi, which I think I need to probably do a book on that, how I was just so excited to make her a grandma along with my mom, right? Because she's my bonus mom. So that was really, really like, ooh, this is an experience that we can share together. So that was delightful. And our work together coming up. I have been pushing that I want to do my justice involved training that has wraparound services, and I've been very clear. I already found somebody that can do the wraparound. I'm like you, I don't need somebody. I already got somebody, and being very clear that we do not want it to feel like they are still on the inside, on the outside, right? Like that is not the vibe. That is not what we're going for. Yes.
That is a huge challenge. I was fortunate enough that the program I was working with DC government was being run out of the Department of Small and Local Business Development. So now there was another relationship with another DC department I'm not going to name. And I used to be like, okay, I can curse here, right? I was like, this shit is like corrections, and I don't do corrections. I don't do corrections. I'm not a cop, and I'm not effing policing people. I really didn't want to say effing. I wanted to say the word. I mean, let me tell you something. When I was, and I know we're at time, when I was working in the work release program, right? When I first went in there, because I went in there initially as a volunteer, right? And what they asked me to do, I was like, yeah, I'm not doing it. Right? Because basically they wanted me to go in the computer room and make sure people were actually working, looking for jobs, that they weren't surfing the web and doing that. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I was like, I'm not doing that. So I literally wrote a proposal to them for what I would do as a volunteer. And so then I developed a job retention class, right? So I did a job retention class, and then eventually I did go into the computer room, and actually they ended up hiring me part-time, but I did go into the computer room, but I did it my way. Because I was like, I'm not here to police, because my way is that I'm going to engage you, and we're going to have something going on in here, right? And once we do that, so the way it worked is that everybody, when they came to the work release program, the first week they had to do a job search class, right? So that's what was happening in the computer room for a particular part of the day for a week, right? And so my thing is, I turned it into group facilitation. And trust, everybody was doing what they were supposed to be doing, but like I said, I don't do that. I ain't treating nobody like you.
But it's also a form of teaching, right? Because it's also a form of teaching, because we assume that people know how to do certain things because we know how to do it, or because it's easy, right? Like we assume that people know how to do a job search, or people know how to think about an idea that they want to do for a business, because that's our strong suit. But everybody doesn't have those skills. So before you can have the expectation, you first have to teach. You have to ground everybody and having access to information, understanding that everybody learns differently, and then pivot accordingly, so everybody is doing the outcome that you want them to do, but the vehicle that they do it in will look very different based on skill sets, experience, and knowledge and tenacity and so on and so forth. And then addressing their weak points, right? Because everybody has them. We have them. Addressing those.
Our area of opportunity. So yeah, no, exactly. And that's it. Like I said, when I said I turned it into group facilitation, that's exactly what it is. It was group teaching, and that's it. And also being, you know, the challenge as well is when it's like things are supposed to be done in these really strict lines, right? But there is nuance to being human, and there's nuance to everybody's situation. So if I'm doing, you know, teaching job search, right? And somebody is looking for a car, right? Why are you looking for a car? They're looking for a car because one, they got the money to buy it, or our family's going to buy it for them, and then that's going to make it even easier for them in terms of having a job, and that widens where they can get a job at whatever. So I'm not going to sit there and be like, you're supposed to be doing that. Why are you? No, no, I can't. I just can't. It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. I refuse to treat people like they still inside. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And that would be the thing. Like I said, another program where I'm not gonna say I would bump up against people, right? And get into it like, because color outside the box, free spirit. I'm like, as long as I'm accountable to folks who want to treat you this way, right? You're not directly accountable because I'm running this program. So I'm gonna let you do what you need to do, and I'm gonna deal with them. That's it. I can't enforce those rules. I can't. I just can't. Because it's not empowering. Like I said, I am about self-determination and empowerment. And it is so disempowering. And it is so, what I said about, it's like infantilizing. It's like you treating people, adults, like they children. You know, and my thing is, I'm gonna treat, and even if your maturity level isn't to where I think where I'm gonna treat you at the maturity level I want you to come to. You're gonna rise to it. You're either gonna rise to it or you're gonna walk out the door. And I don't have control over that. But I'm gonna treat you according to who I see, to the divine that I see in somebody else. That's how I'm gonna treat you.
I love it. I love it. You got to come back. You got to come back.
I will. And I'll be better prepared. Like I said, I was prepared to answer questions. I wasn't prepared to present. And I'm a presenter. Like you give me you get me in front of a group of people who have had a hard time in life. I'm just gonna put it like that. And I'm like, what y'all need to know? What do y'all want to know? What do you know? Because the one thing I'm very clear as a teacher, I am always learning. And I do not walk into a space. I don't care if it's who I'm working with. I don't walk into a space, whether it's with the returning citizen entrepreneurs, whether it's inside a prison. I don't walk into a space without coming out learning something. I'm learning something. Just as I'm teaching, I'm learning.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We will have you back. I'm so excited. Thank you, Kimberly, for dropping by the Blackout live from New York. Until next Saturday, be well.
Be well.